Imagine a weapon so powerful that the man who ordered it built refused to use it. Not because it failed, not because it was too expensive, but because he was afraid of what would happen if he did. That weapon existed, it was real, and the story of why it never fell on London or Moscow or New York is one of the strangest and most consequential decisions in the history of modern warfare. You are about to find out what Germany actually built, and why the man who built it kept it locked away. By 1943, the war was turning. The German advance into the Soviet Union had stalled, North Africa was lost, the Allies were pushing into Italy. Hitler needed something that would change the math overnight. His scientists believed they had found it. Germany had been running a secret nuclear weapons program since 1939. It was called the Uranverein, the Uranium Club, a group of some of the most brilliant physicists in Europe working in secret laboratories tasked with one mission: build a weapon capable of ending the war in a single detonation. The scientists involved were not amateurs. Werner Heisenberg, one of the founders of quantum mechanics and a Nobel Prize winner, was the program's lead theoretical physicist. Kurt Diebner, a nuclear physicist with deep connections to the German Army Weapons Office, ran the practical experimental side. These were serious men doing serious science. And yet the program failed. Not completely, not in the way history often tells it. The story is stranger than that. Most historians point to a critical meeting in June 1942. Albert Speer, Hitler's Minister of Armaments, met with Heisenberg directly. He asked a simple question: could Germany build a nuclear bomb, and if so, how long would it take? Heisenberg's answer has been debated ever since. He told Speer it would take years, perhaps 3 to 4 years minimum. It would require enormous industrial resources, uranium, heavy water, centrifuges, facilities that did not yet exist. Speer reported back to Hitler. Hitler had a well-documented distaste for what he called Jewish physics, a phrase he used to dismiss relativity and quantum theory, the very sciences the bomb depended on. He had pushed Jewish scientists out of German universities in the 1930s, and many of them, including physicists like Leo Szilard, Hans Bethe and Edward Teller, had fled to the United States. Those same scientists would later work on the Manhattan Project, but there was something else. Something historians like Richard Rhodes, in his Pulitzer Prize-winning account, The Making of the Atomic Bomb, have returned to again and again. Hitler was not simply dismissive of the bomb, he was afraid of it. Not afraid in the way a soldier fears a bullet, afraid in a different way. He did not want to open a door that could not be closed. There is a documented meeting in which Hitler expressed deep unease about atomic weapons, specifically about what would happen if the technology spread. If Germany used such a weapon, what stopped Britain from building one? What stopped the Americans? What stopped Stalin? He understood, perhaps more clearly than his generals, that a nuclear exchange would not save Germany. It would end the concept of victory entirely. This was not strategic wisdom, it was a kind of paranoid logic, and it shaped every decision the program made after 1942. Germany quietly downgraded the Uranverein from a priority weapons project to what it called an energy research program. The official line became, "We are exploring nuclear fission for power generation, not for bombs." The military funding dried up. Heisenberg and his team were moved to a facility in Haigerloch, a small town in southwest Germany, where they continued experiments but without the resources to reach critical mass. They never did. But here is what is really discussed. German scientists were not as far behind as Allied intelligence originally believed. A top-secret Allied mission called Operation Alsos, run by physicist Samuel Goudsmit, followed the Allied armies into Germany in 1944 and 1945 specifically to assess German nuclear progress. What Goudsmit's team found? Them. The Germans had a functioning nuclear reactor prototype. It had never gone critical, but the underlying science was sound. The infrastructure was crude compared to the Manhattan Project, but the knowledge was there. Given 2 more years, and the resources Germany had poured into projects like the V2 rocket program, the outcome might have been different. Goudsmit later wrote that the German program failed not because of scientific incompetence, but because of a combination of bureaucratic fragmentation, deliberate misdirection by some scientists, and most critically, a lack of concentrated political will at the top. That lack of will came from one place. There is a theory, explored in depth by historians like Mark Walker in his work German National Socialism and the Quest for Nuclear Power, that Heisenberg himself may have deliberately understated the feasibility of a German bomb when he met with Speer in 1942. That his estimate of several years was not inaccurate ignorance, but a quiet act of sabotage. That he knew what the bomb would mean in Hitler's hands, and he chose to make it sound harder than it was. Heisenberg denied this after the war. His colleague Carl Friedrich von Weizsäcker supported the idea. The debate has never been fully resolved. What is not debatable is the outcome. Germany built something extraordinary and chose not to finish it. The man at the centre of the entire war, who had sent millions to their deaths without hesitation, drew a line at the atomic bomb. Not out of conscience, not out of mercy, but out of a fear he could never fully articulate. Meanwhile, in Los Alamos, New Mexico, the scientists who had fled his regime were finishing what he started. The Trinity test detonated on July 16, 1945. J. Robert Oppenheimer, watching the fireball rise, recalled a line from Hindu scripture, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Hitler had been dead for 77 days. The bomb he was too afraid to use had just changed everything. And the scientists he had driven out of his own country were the ones who built it. Tonight, somewhere, a decision is being made by someone who has the power to act and the fear to hold back. History does not always remember what was done. Sometimes it remembers what was not. The most powerful weapon Germany ever built was the one that stayed in the ground, and the man who put it there was not a pacifist. He was simply afraid of what came next.